Javi, how's things?
Good, thank you. Well, how about you?
Good. Looking forward to summer and Christmas and probably getting together with some of you New South Welshmen who have been in lockdown for a while.
Yeah, that's a few, but are you guys opening the borders? I haven't been keeping touch. I must admit that after a while, I just stopped watching the
Yeah,
news. I think,
likewise. This
yeah.
morning I heard that our
So,
Premier Anastasia is going to make that work before Christmas. So there's announcements due this week, I
oh,
think.
really?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, right.
For double vaxxed, I believe.
Oh, okay. There we go. Well, that's good. That's promising then. My parents did call over the weekend and they were like adamant that they were going to be here. And because I had not been watching the news and they're based in Queensland, I was like, I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to come, but okay. It's up to you. But yes, well, that's good. That is promising because, we all need to reconnect.
Yeah,
It's
finally.
been a very long road. Mm.
And you passed your Freedom Day. Have you been out celebrating your newfound freedom?
No, I have been very boring. So, yes, Freedom Day came. The only thing that I have done from a freedom perspective is over the weekend, I actually took my son out with me to do the shopping. And he was most excited about that because you know how, I don't know if it was the same in Queensland, but it was only one person that was allowed to leave the house at any one time to do any of the critical sort of tasks. And so my husband and I would interchange. And I brought my son with me this time, and he was, that was exciting because he has not been out of the house besides just, being out like exercising or anything like that. So that was fun. So I'm a bit boring. I haven't done anything yet. I have plans. Yes, I'm not that boring. So I've got a girlfriend's date I think next week. We're doing a
Very
9-horse
good.
degustation, so in Surrey Hills. So I'm very excited
Beautiful.
about that.
Should be good fun.
Yep.
Good
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So, Javi, you're obviously you've been involved with the military for quite a while here. You can see some great plaques and
Oh.
presentos, as we call them, for years of
Yeah.
service from your partner. How
Hmm.
long's your army journey been?
So I'm pretty sure my husband will kill me, but I'm pretty sure we're close to 22 years now. And in saying that, it's been a very long, long journey. But some people sort of say, "Have you regretted anything?" No, because it's just been that ride. You know what I mean? That very much a roller coaster ride. Bit of a thrill seeker, so it's been fun.
And how many postings or how many places have you lived in that period?
Oh, very good question. I have to say, we've been pretty lucky. So hubby and I met when he was first stationed at RAF base in Townsville when 5 Aviation Regiment was actually there, but now they've moved. So we met there back, 2000, at like the year 2000-ish. I think. Oops, sorry, I'm stretching now. Anyway, so we lived there and we were in Townsville for a very long time. And then after Townsville, he got selected to do ADFA, made it into the Defence Force Academy. And because when he first joined, he was an aviation technician. So, did the typical sort of training route. And then we met in Townsville, and then we lived there for a period of time and then jumped ship from Townsville to Canberra. Which was, I remember I was so excited about getting out of Townsville because, if you've ever been stationed at Townsville, it's boring, but it's fun. My parents still live there, my brother's still there, but yeah, I think, it's a very typical sort of small country town, but they've done a lot of work, with that place. And so I was super excited about getting out, but everyone was saying to me, nah, you're not going to like Canberra. There's too much of a difference in the temperature. And I had not been prepared, right? And I'm like telling myself, I'm one of those people that I would describe myself as a positive altruist. I'm like, see the positive in everything. It's going to be fine. And then moved there. And the first year we moved there, it was okay. And I was like, this isn't that bad. I want to know what everyone's
It
talking
wasn't
about.
winter,
And then,
clearly.
yeah, exactly. And then winter came, and then the rain with the winter, and I was like, oh my god, this place is freezing. So yeah, but we lived in Canberra for 5 years, and then after that we got posted to Sydney. We've been here ever since. So we've only done 3 technical postings.
That is super
Technical.
rare. That is super unusual.
That
You're
is
very lucky.
very rare. So, have we been separated more times than that? Absolutely. With deployments and hubby taking an overseas posting for a time, which is why you can see the United States sort of flag on the the swords, which I should know the names of them, but yes, Stetsons thing, aren't they? Like
Sounds
with
about
the
right.
cavalrymen. Yes,
Right.
yes, yeah. Well, you should know, don't you know? No.
I should. I should. Navy and Air Force both use similar swords, but yeah, the name escapes me. But
Yeah, yeah.
so interesting pathway for you, obviously through the army career
Hmm.
as a partner and also nursing. I
Hmm.
understand you did quite a bit of nursing work prior to moving on to With You With Me.
Yes, correct. I've had a bit of a career shape. I suppose like every other military spouse, you know you change along the way. But I think for me, I was always trying to find what was the right fit. So I actually started before nursing was an exercise physiologist, and then when hubby and I got posted to Canberra, I was working as an exercise physiologist, and then wanted to work with children. I just always had a passion for working with kids. So I actually retrained as a pediatric nurse, and then spent some time obviously working at the children's hospital because I got selected to work as part of the Randwick Children's Hospital graduation program. Yeah, so spent some time doing that, but I only spent, around just over 3 years actually doing pediatric nursing, because I have to say it's very tough on the soul, if I can, or
Seeing sick
describe it that way.
kids.
Uh, Seeing sick kids is, yes, absolutely. But I think it was more so the difficulty that I found after my time, you know, because you have to have periods of rotation, just like I suppose in the military. You rotate from place to place you go. And in the beginning, when you're doing your nursing career, they try to give you the rotation so that you can realistically find, you know, one, where your skills are best aligned to, but also from a needs perspective,
Mhm.
which we all know. So I ended up working, if had I have stayed in oncology, because I did pediatric oncology as part of my rotation, I would still be a nurse today. And most people go, "What? Really?" And I was like, "Yeah, I found that so rewarding. Loved it. Loved the fact that it was always problem solving." But what I found, I ended up moving into more, it was a blended sort of word. So think medical surgical, sort of, if I could best describe it. And what I ended up finding was difficulty with the, yes, seeing sick kids, but also just seeing the challenges that parents have. And just, sometimes you see nice challenges and, good outcomes, but then you see really not so good outcomes, and a blended, you know, not very nice families in terms of how they sort of, adapting with parenthood and things like that. And as a mother myself, I found that very difficult. And then on top of that, the challenges of, being a military spouse, and my hubby got actually short notice deployed whilst I was training. That was really difficult, and I did not get any flexibility because of just the circumstances that I was in. No one's fault, just the circumstances. And I found that really challenging. Like, so trying to have commitments towards your job, and what you needed to do, with then your husband being away and having 3 kids on your own. And this was when I was here in Sydney. I didn't have family support here. So it was that whole challenge of trying to do the best, relying on your neighbors, friends, and things like that. I ended up actually resigning. So it was just one of those things where I just went, nah, I need to get back and do something different. So yeah, it was just one of those things that it was, I chose to, and that's what I chose to sort of do, and was just moved on. But I don't regret it. Everything that I learned there, and I loved my time there, and I, still take my hat off to those, nurses that are doing it very difficult, and especially in these times right now that we all face ourselves with. But yeah, for me, it was something that I needed to bow myself out of.
So you've got a lot of experience there, just lived experience from the journey the families have been on, both through military families and
Mm,
military members accompanying, serving members who've gone overseas and come back, and the
yeah,
posting cycles, and also from what you've seen from children's health. You've seen a
yeah,
lot.
yeah, absolutely. Prior to doing the children's health sort of side of thing, when I, as you recall, Matthew, I said I was working as an exercise physiologist, and I was actually working at one area RAP. So I was actually working as what they called a rehabilitation coordinator as part of the Australian Defence Force rehabilitation program. So I actually spent a large majority of my professional career before joining With You With Me supporting Defence Force members actually through rehabilitation case management. Essentially, if they got injured, helping them try and get back to what they were doing. If not, finding them, alternate sort of work whilst they were rehabilitating. Or on the flip side, actually supporting them through that transition process. So I did a large number of years actually doing that. And that's the job that I actually went back to after pediatric nursing. So as a health professional, you get to work sort of, different types of role and use your skills in different ways. And I was fortunate enough to actually return back to that type of work, where I was still able to support something that was dear, to my heart as well, always helping people, being part of something bigger than myself and, being able to do that. So, yeah, so there's that angle as well, that not only was I experiencing it for myself, that lived experience, like you mentioned, I was actually also putting myself in other people's shoes and trying to help them support through that difficult transition process, or not so difficult, because there's a blended mix of all. Some people have a smooth and soft landing, which is great. Others have a more robust sort of transition process, and it was sort of my role to support the members and their families and the units as well. Yeah.
So that all sounds like sort of a natural journey and natural stepping stones to where you are now with You With Me. How did you meet the Toms and get, or the two Toms and get started?
Oh, that's a really great question. And so not many people know this. Obviously, those that are close to me know that. So obviously, as I mentioned, I was working within, the Defence Force sort of space. At that time, back in, I think it was 2015, I was managing the New South Wales team of consultants that were essentially managing that process. So for New South Wales, all the bases across New South Wales, I was the manager of the teams and supporting, the rehab case managers through that. And one such gentleman, so Tom Moore, was actually being medically separated himself. And his rehabilitation case manager actually called me and said, you need to meet this guy named Tom. He's got this idea about this company called With You With Me. He's really passionate and I'd really like you to meet him. This is when he was being discharged in, I'm pretty sure it was Albury. So came to Sydney, I called him and said, hey, look, I'd be really keen to sort of connect. I hear that you're, trying to start this company, blah, 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 that's all in support of veterans. And he was like, yep. So I remember him meeting Tom back in 2015. And yeah, he came into the office in the city where I was working and essentially pitched to me what was With You With Me almost 6 years ago now. And it was very much the same vision and mission, but just different in terms of like what it is today. And I just remember meeting this very passionate and, like driven individual. And that's what I could see, purpose and passion in Tom. And yeah, I loved it. I loved what, he was all about and what he was trying to do. And I just remember saying, I'm going to help you. That was it. And then I just we obviously, with the work, we were fortunate enough to support many, obviously, members transitioning, and anyone that didn't know what they wanted to do or showed an interest in, support, just refer, bang. And I'd have him speaking at our meetings with other case managers around the country and stuff like that. And yeah, and then honestly, Tom and I just remained in contact over the last because I've been with You With Me for three years now. We stayed in contact for that first 3 years, just through mutual connection, introducing people. I'd obviously support him with any of his events that he was having. So I remember being at the first With You With Me, like event that they had back in 2015. you know, because I just loved what they're all about. And then obviously, you know, met Thomas, who was one of their first employees, and then Tom Larder later down the track. And, you know, I've kind of been a part of that journey in the background. And yeah, and that's kind of how I met the man and what it is today.
And you found your way eventually through to the role of partnerships and community, heading up that sort of area. What was your journey? What was your pathway through the company from starting off to where you are now?
Great question. So I actually started, it was funny. So I actually started off as a project manager before moving into a partnerships and community manager role. So early on in the piece, I remember I was obviously working, you know, I don't remember who I was working for, but I remember sort of calling Tom and saying I wanted to come and work for him, and I wanted to start the whole military spouse program. And I remember him saying to me, "No, let's meet up because I want to chat." And it was a job interview, right? And so the first job that I got was actually supporting a particular body of work for a contract that With You With Me had won, which was about supporting those police force that were injured while on duty, and trying to support them through our programs. So I did that for about 12 months and then moved into the partner and community manager role. And that was realistically about broadening the support and connections, not only here within Australia with the, you know, the ex-service organisations or the not-for-profit sort of sector that we have here, but realistically about providing a stronger connection relationship with the businesses that had, I suppose, been supportive with me from the beginning. So it's kind of like a double hat role from a business perspective, from a relationship management perspective, but also then from that community element about really connecting the dots. Because what I loved about what With You With Me was offering, that they had a swim lane. This is what the niche sort of offering that they had, but it was very much on, if they couldn't support, connecting the dots with other providers. And I suppose my experience, not my experience, the skills that I had gained from my previous roles is that I had made a lot of those connections by supporting members transitioning and connecting those. So it was me realistically about bringing that ecosystem and connecting it to With You With Me. And then, and then where I am now, because I'm obviously, as you mentioned, I'm in a different role now. I'm what we call, it's a very fancy term, I like to say, so defence and technology industry executive. So which just means I'm one of the account executives and more business facing now, connecting with businesses to realistically connect our commercial offering, which supports our corporate social responsibility, which is about providing that free support for military veterans and families who are transitioning out of services or looking to, you know, find their way into a technology role.
So the company started off with a focus on veterans and veterans transition, education and skilling to find those job roles after the military. How did the shift work towards partners? You're quite passionate about, of course, assisting partners into new jobs. And with so many moving around the country, I mean, I've been pretty lucky in my career with Navy to be in NARA for, you know, about 8 years continuously, but many move every 2 years. So what sort of programs have you brought through for assisting partners in their transition and employment?
Perfect. So we've got a program called the Home Squads program, and that is essentially specifically targeted for military families. And when we say military families, we mean military spouses, so partners of servicemen and women, or family members as well. So, you know, if you have a child that's, you know, wanting to learn any technology, they're actually eligible to sign up for the programs. Parents, if they all, you know, want to upskill themselves in the digital sort of technology space, are able to have access to that. So essentially it's just a subset, well, not really a subset, it's just another vertical of exactly what we do for veterans and supporting them and reskilling them into the technology sector. We've got that, but we call it the Home Squads program. So, you know, that's something that we started at With You With Me, gosh, around 3 years ago, I think. Yeah, really. And it's had a lot more, let's say, legs this year or probably the end of last year. And the reason being is one of the cool things that we did is, as you know, we've grown exponentially, and we're not only obviously here in Australia, but we provide support for UK servicemen and women and their families, also the Canadian military community. We've got a smaller footprint in the United States, and we do have some New Zealanders, New Zealand military folk actually training with us, but you know, much smaller. But the program is realistically, you know, about supporting those family members, and we really wanted to, as part of that, showcase how military families can support. So, as you know, we've got a platform where community members can come through and, you know, go through that process of discovery, finding what their propensity is to learn a tech skill, you know, then going through that sort of reskilling program. And that's actually enabled by our SaaS technology and our product. So what we ended up doing is putting together an opportunity for spouses to apply specifically to become help desk analysts. So, you know, supporting the tech space. So if you actually log into our product, there's a little bubble at the bottom where you can, you know, if you need to lodge a ticket, you need support, that whole, our whole SaaS technology is manned, essentially, if I can use that term, because, you know, we're both military community, is manned by military spouses. So we actually have a global team of military spouses that do that offering, that support there. They're the service desk, help desk officers for that, which is really cool. So we've hired a whole workforce to be able to do that.
So Javi, that's a pretty major change. I mean, when I joined up, the story was military guys marry ladies who tend to be nurses or they're teachers, because those jobs are portable. They can follow the military guy around the country. They can always have a job. You know, and many people weren't in those professions, and many people, if maybe they were a lawyer or they were something else, they really suffered because they get 2 years into a career somewhere else, you know, and 5 posting cycles later, they've really suffered. But this is really an alternative approach where people can work from home and be plugged into the same job for a long period of time. How's this approach changing, I suppose, spouses' confidence levels and their career prospects and their confidence?
That is a really great question. Can I just say it's changing their lives exponentially. You know, as you know, you've been a really good advocate of With You With Me for quite some time now. And one of the things that we love to do here is capturing those stories. And what we can say is that I suppose that tech support program that we have launched, you know, we've been interviewing the spouses that we've been able to support through that program, you know, and some of the stories, as you said, you know, they were following their husbands around or partners, you know, if they were males, because you have to remember military spouses are men as well. They have an opportunity to, you know, do something else, right? And so, you know, the fact that I suppose what COVID has done is allowed us to realistically showcase that we can work from home. So it's really sort of opened up and broaden the opportunity that you don't have to go through that traditional sort of career journey, which, I mean, like I did that. Oh gosh, I can't get one job to another because I can't relocate. And it's not because my employers can't do that, but just sometimes they don't have the ability to do that. So, you know, as you mentioned, we traditionally follow that route where you can, you know, jump from career to career through, you know, following that sort of career path, but you know, you can't necessarily do that. So what this has done is realistically enabled a differing offer and an ability to work from home, so that if you have some military spouses that need to work from home because they still play the role as the primary carer for families, they can do that. But it also, you know, tech is just one of those things that you can learn, and you don't necessarily have to go through the traditional education system to be able to do that. And absolutely, there is a place for that. You know, can go through university and do that computer science degree. But if you're, you know, if you have a keen and curious mindset and you're able to learn, this is a program where you can sort of jump on, and it's free, you know what I mean? And that's also the other thing that's obviously of great benefit. You know, there isn't that barrier to entry from one, I don't have the finances that could potentially pay for a traditional sort of university degree and some TAFE courses, because people just aren't fortunate like that. So, you know, we're able to provide a different opportunity that doesn't have that barrier to entry, you know, that we can support them, that they don't have to have that experience before. Because I think that plays on people's confidence as well, especially military spouses, that, oh, I can't do that, I'm not very good with computers, or, oh, you know, I'm just not tech savvy, if you want to use that terminology. Look, I'm still what we would call a tech noob, and I'm selling technology. So, but it's just about, again, having that sort of curious mindset to realistically understand. And what I love about our programs, as I mentioned to you before, is that initial sort of step of that process discovery is that, you know, what we have done it with you, with me, is developed a testing suite, which is about realistically finding what that individual's propensity is to learn, which does one of two things. One, matches them the right way towards the most successful career within tech. But as you mentioned, it builds that confidence, right? Imagine, you know, understanding that, hey, you might not have come from a background where you've had, you know, experience with technology, but what if I could show you a pathway to be able to do that and utilize not just me, you know, convincing you to do it, me showing you how you and how your strengths and aptitude and how you learn can put you on that trajectory. And I think it really comes down to, like you said, that building that confidence, right? Because look, I think, if I can say, 9 times out of 10, it's realistically about convincing people that they can do it. They have the potential, you know, to be able to reskill and, you know, and go down a journey that they maybe thought, you know, they couldn't do before. And I think that speaks volume, not only to obviously the veteran community, which we've had so much success with, but now also to the military spouse community, to provide them another avenue on, like you said, that is able to realistically help juggle the lifestyle that we have to lead when we, you know, don't have to put on the uniform, but put it on as a spouse, if I can say that.
Jav, I think you've just hit on the head probably my favorite aspect around what you're doing with you, with me, which is just empowering people to see what they can do, what they are capable of doing, and showing them the way forward. So many groups, you know, spouses might be one, other groups in society, you know, they get a few knockbacks and they're told they can't do it, and they take that on board. So you're really paving the way and showing other ways to reach out and achieve career goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Which I'm 100% passionate about as well. I'm like, honestly, you know, what I'm doing here doesn't feel like a job to me, honestly. And I know that sounds really cliche and stuff, but I am so passionate about what we do. I like live and breathe it. You know, I've been definitely, you know, bought into the mission on what we're trying to achieve, but because I've experienced that, and then I know that I can support others to be able to do that, which is like what you said, you know, paving the way to say that, hey, you know, there is something that you can do. And it's not necessarily about, you have to, you know, you're going to become a technologist and that's the job pathway, but also about, it's also about increasing their skills and ability to enable them to do perhaps their job better, or, you know, connecting with other members in the family, or, you know what, you know, even like, I know our kids, so we've got 3 kids, and they know technology better than me, right? And knowing that I'm in this job kind of gives me a better understanding, because I'm at the forefront of the way that tech is changing, keeping relevant and up to date with it. I now can actually have a connection with my children, and, you know, in a way, because I'm learning, right? And I'm constantly learning and having to upskill myself. So I think it provides not only, yes, you know, we provide different job and career outcomes, but we're also providing so much more than that. We're providing people with skills and abilities to have connection with other people. And that's really important, because it's not necessarily always about, you know, trying to get a job out of it, because some people don't need that, but it's broadening that scope of support that we're able to provide.
And we should mention you're really going beyond veterans and spouses. You're reaching out into other realms, right? Neurodiverse, which is people, some might be with learning difficulties or somewhere on the autism spectrum, and also into indigenous groups. Tell me about some of the other areas with you, with me, is moving into.
Great. I'm really happy, and I'm glad that you asked me that question, because again, it's not just about obviously supporting our military community. It's also about broadening that opportunity, like you said before, giving people the ability to surpass their potential. And so what I love about our organization is that anyone within the business that wants to support a program, or let's say an underrepresented talent group or a community group that they feel is in need, they just essentially need to, let's say, pitch it to the organization. And then, you know, as long as Tom, the CEO, sort of says, yep, we, you know, let's do it, we get funding for that, right? And so what I'm pleased to say is, yes, we have what we call our Project Possible program, which is about supporting those that identify as neurodiverse or neurodivergent. We have an Indigenous program, which we've established in Canada. We also actually, as part of the response to COVID-19, we had a very successful program to support those, what we call the aviation upskill program. So pilots, you know, ground crew, the air crew that had faced unemployment due to COVID, we actually put together a program, and that's still running now, where they can actually access our programs for free and go through some upskilling. So yeah, so we've got obviously other programs in place, which is, you know, the same process of discovery, helping them realistically see that, hey, you know, yes, you might have been knocked back from that job before, or yes, you might have been told that you weren't successful here, but, you know, we've just found a new way to sort of show people that they can do things and they can learn differently, aligned to how they can best use their skills and how they best learn. So, which is, I think, really, really important, because as you mentioned, the traditional education system, as we know, it has its place, and yes, it is the way that it is, but, you know, some people don't fit necessarily within that, and some people sort of struggle learning that way. So what we've been able to do is realistically broaden the opportunity to get people to understand that, yes, you know, what their abilities are might be different from traditional society's abilities, but if we can show them the way and pave that way for them, but they have to take that journey. All we do is just really open the doors. They're the ones that are, you know, the heroes of their own story from here, because they're the ones that actually have to apply themselves, have to do the work, have to study, have to submit the courses. You know, it's, you know, we're just offering a new pathway for them.
Javi, that's a really interesting point. I think traditional education and learning, and even military training, really caters for a certain type of learner or a certain sort of mentality and even cultural background. And you're doing things by tailoring training to individual learning styles. And how do you actually do that?
Great question. And we are doing that. So how we're doing that is, so remember how I said to you, we have a process of discoveries. So what that actually means is utilizing our testing suite to realistically understand an individual's propensity to learn a tech skill. So it's realistically about looking at their aptitude strengths and understanding the makeup of a software developer might show high levels of, you know, abstract thinking or spatial reasoning. So if an individual has, you know, metrics that show that, we can show them that they have the opportunity to become that over a period of time. But what we've also done is, part of one of the assessments that we do is looking at an individual's learning style. And the reason that we do that is to allow the individual to understand that they may not be a traditional learner of a, let's say, an audible learner. So they learn through hearing. So for me, I'm a, gosh, I usually get this, I'm an intrapersonal learner. And what that means is I'm a person that learns many different ways, but I need to be on my own to learn. And so in school, I know that when we were working in groups, I found it actually difficult to I used to get distracted quite easily. So for me, it was one of those things of, I needed to absorb the knowledge and then actually work it out myself and then apply it to sort of things by doing. And that's how I learned. Whereas other people can traditionally be kinesthetic learners. So they need to learn by doing, by touching, by feeling it. Or if they're like a person that's oh gosh, there's so many other ones, and now I'm having a mind blank that I don't know, but there's different ways of essentially learning. And what we do is our testing shows them what their preferred style is, and so what that does is shows that individuals that, hey, when you're about to embark on that training journey with us, absorb that content that way. So if you are an Audible learner, listen to the podcasts that are there, have an understanding of what it is, and then go and, because what that really shows is an ability for that individual to essentially have that aha moment of, oh, right, that makes sense to me now. So if I can apply that, I'm going to put myself in the best position to be the most successful and actually, have the opportunity to win. So it caters essentially our, doing that assessment allows the individual to cater the learning experience and increases the opportunity for them to have success out of our programs.
It's amazing you mentioned the aha moment, and that's just the biggest thing I've experienced, both personally and people I've coached and trained throughout the military. When they don't see that coming, it's just a grind and it's a hard slog. But when they get that, they turn the corner.
Totally. And I think that leads into, like you said, it's part of confidence, understanding in themselves that I can do this, right? But I think having an opportunity where you can understand so much more about an individual in the beginning to set them up for success, it puts them on that journey to have that aha moment, to have that confidence building perception, and to have that ability to understand that, hey, I'm best aligned to this type of role or, in technology because of these things. And so they can get to those moments much quicker. And that allows, and that has like a flow and effect, right? So if you're having those moments where you have those wins and you're like, yes, oh my gosh, I'm getting this. It's going to put you on a stead towards doing that, and more quickly, right? Which is why part of the success of our programs is that we're able to skill people much quicker and have successful outcomes because we utilize data in the beginning to ensure that success. So, it's a unique way, but it's also, when you think about it and you unpack it like we are now, we're talking about it, it's kind of like, that makes total sense. Why wouldn't we do it that way?
It's almost a no-brainer, but just the fact that you're leading the way and some other companies and organizations haven't caught onto that quite yet. I want to come to that, back to this in just a moment, but firstly I want to hit on, how can people get online and use your systems and use your testing to find out how they learn and what their aptitude is, what style of learning they prefer?
That's a great question. And I'm just going to do a shameless plug here for With You With Me. So literally, if people just jump on our website, so www.withyouwithme.com, like it's spelt. But maybe if you can't spell properly, just go with you, and it'll, because we're on the Google search term, so it'll come up straight away. And literally, for if you are, what we've grouped it in, if you are, let's say, a job seeker or you're looking to get some support, click on that and it'll actually take you straight to the testing, and you can actually sign up. It's free to sign up. There's no obligation. All you need to put in is name and email address. That's the only personal information that we take from you, and then take the testing. Really understand. It helps kind of, one, discover more about yourself, discover, like you said, that learning style, what your propensity is for a digital skill. But also the cool thing about it, which we haven't spoke about, kind of gives you a little bit of insight about who you are and how the others perceive you, and the way you sort of, look at the world, and the way that you communicate with others, which I think is really, really important. Because as you mentioned before, a lot of the groups that we support, there's a perception problem, I think, and I'll call it the perception problem. The perception problem of, the society thinks that a lot of people that are transitioning from the military may have mental health conditions. Or there's a perception problem that military spouses have been unemployed for a long period of time. And because of those huge gaps within their resume, they're probably not going to have the skills or the experience to be able to fill into a job. Or the perception problem of those that identify as neurodivergent. They have, how are they going to fit into the workforce? And do we have to then cater for them differently? Or Indigenous groups that they have a perception problem, or how are they going to culturally align? And, do we need to do something different? I think these are perception problems, because it's realistically about understanding what are their abilities, and how can they then really support, advocating for the business, and, helping them understand, their strengths and what they're going to be able to do to help create impact for that particular opportunity or business.
It's clear what you and With You With Me are doing is really the cutting edge of, talent sourcing, training, the approaches to the underemployed, and how to assess
Mhm.
people based on their potential and their actual merits. What's happening in the rest of the industry? Are you really causing shockwaves and shaking things up with your bigger competitors?
Yeah, look, I think, look, what I can say is that we're still the we're still the underdog. Like, there's a lot of organizations that we still speak to, especially in my obviously in my role. I'm speaking to the corporates, and one of the things that I have is like, who, what do you do? So I really like that, because you're kind of like the underdog, right? It's coming in and sort of talking about, like you said, this really revolutionary way of looking at people and how their abilities can help support businesses. So I really, there is a lot of shockwaves, but once businesses really catch on to how we can add value to their organization, they're like riding the wave with us. So it's fantastic. So it's got its purposes, but really, and I don't want to sound like, I don't know, not like my head's overinflated or anything, but we don't really have like an end-to-end competitor, right? We've got competitors within the market that are doing elements of what we are doing. And when I say elements, they're doing it a little bit differently, but no one, honestly, and I'm being honest, no one is actually doing the end to end of what we're doing, because you think about it, we've got, I suppose, different offerings and verticals that if businesses only want to use that part of it because that's what they need, great, they can use that part. So it's actually really exciting, because we're the underdog, but we're also leading that conversation, which is exciting in itself.
Yeah, I think the rate you're growing at and the rate you're kicking goals at, you won't be the underdog for long.
Yeah. So people will catch on and try and bring in, I suppose, their version of what we're doing. But that's okay. Competition is healthy, and I think it makes you innovate as well. And that's the cool thing about technology as well, is that it's such a rapidly growing industry that you need to evolve, right? So, and as you mentioned, yes, we are evolving, and yes, we have grown, but that's because we've innovated at each sort of growth trajectory, and we will continue to do that, which is really fantastic. So we won't, I suppose, well, I won't say won't, because never say never, but I think we're on definitely the right trajectory to kind of innovate and realistically kind of understand what does industry need now, and where can we sort of move, and and for us surpass our own potential in being the leaders in this space.
I think so. And I'm fascinated to see where you end up. And I know previously we've spoken, you said there's some pretty interesting things on the horizon, some of which you can't reveal, I'm sure, just yet. But where would you see the company be at in the next, say, 3 years?
Whew,
If you can
what's
let on,
my
without
vision?
without spilling all your secrets.
So what I would definitely say is that our programs would be expanded, globally, and in much bigger sort of footprints in the area. So I think what I would definitely say is that, let's say for Canada, our Indigenous programs would have grown exponentially, as well as our military spouse and military veteran programs. And I would say very confidently that we would have our neurodivergent programs established, and making some really fantastic impact there, as well as in the other, obviously, countries that we're operating. So I would say that we would be established in sort of that Five Eyes sort of community, have some, huge runs on the board, and be working with really innovative companies that are wanting to, I suppose, be industry leaders in the space, because we're about complementing businesses. That's our niche. We have to work in a consortium and in a collaboration with other business groups. So we're not about, being the sole person. It's realistically about develop ecosystem with businesses that are willing to kind of say, wow, okay, your market leaders there, we've got an opportunity to essentially establish what you are doing within our organizations, and then help it grow. So realistically, that's what I love about our organization, that partnership and consortium sort of work.
Yeah, it's interesting. I found in the last sort of 2 years since I've been running the podcasts and getting ready for these sorts of themes and these sorts of episodes, just the transition space and the defence veteran space really is evolving. There's a lot more cooperation, a lot more collaboration occurring, and some different ways to approach problems. So I think your timing's spot on.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I would resonate that, what you just said there. I know that I have been working sort of within the transition space for some time. Um, and I've been very fortunate to sort of see its evolution, because we were working in silos, definitely. What I can see now is that we can all play together, and we need to. We really do, because we all are passionate about what we are doing, and that's realistically about supporting those who do need that assistance with the transition, with partners, with these other underrepresented sort of talent groups. And we need to work together, and we need to understand that everyone has its niche offering, and it's not about saying yours is not working and ours is better. It's actually about working together and kind of saying, how can we make this better? Because at the end of the day, we've got to remember that supporting people, and we need to work together to do that. It's like, working together as a community, working together as a society, to actually, like I said, make a difference for each other by working collaboratively. So yeah, it definitely is an exciting place to be. And I'm really proud and grateful to actually be at With You With Me.
Javi, you've just got so much experience in the transition space, in the community space, and now with You With Me. How can people reach out and touch base with you, be it on LinkedIn or somewhere else?
Oh,
if they need to make contact.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I didn't think about that question, so I'm glad you asked. Yeah, look, best place to get connected with me definitely is LinkedIn. I'm on the other social media platforms. Oh gosh, LinkedIn is probably the best place. So find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to actually share that with you, and if you want to add it to but I'm pretty sure if you look for Javiera, so it's Javiera. I'm pretty sure it's my surname, Pinjo Soto, Pinjosoto. Find me on there. I've got my picture on there, or look at With You With Me. I'm pretty sure I'm on there as well, and you can connect with me. I'm more than happy if anyone just wants to understand, what my experiences have been from a military spouse perspective, and maybe struggling, or, want to reach out and connect. I'm more than happy to do that. I do a lot of, in my own time, mentoring and supporting other military spouses. I'm more than happy to do that. Please just get in touch, because I'm very passionate about ensuring that, being a military spouse is hard, really hard, but it's not impossible. It's very, very possible. And so if anyone is struggling, I'd love to be able to support and help them just by listening, or, sharing my own experiences, because it has been a hard journey, but I've made it, and I'm still continuing to make it. And I really want to see, one of the things that I am really passionate about, Matt, is I don't want to see the divorce rate so high in military families. It is higher than the national average, and that's sad. I think, we have an opportunity to change that, and that's not by, making sacrifices and, doing things that we shouldn't be doing or anything like that. But I just think it's about really understanding that you can do it, and maybe speaking to others about, understanding what can be on the other side. So yeah, if anyone wants to reach out, I'm more than happy to talk to them about that.
Thank you, Javi. And mentioning military divorce rates, quite a sad topic when people join up, be it female or male, to support the country and the service requirements of the Defence Force, and that's the ultimate outcome. It is very sad, but I think we're somewhere along that journey at the moment. I know Beck Rayner over at Military Wife Life Podcasts does some phenomenal work with supporting spouses, which ultimately does help relationships and does help defence. And I think what you're doing with helping spouse employment and engagement and motivation will have a direct flow-on benefit to defence and to relationships of defence families.
Oh, 100% agree. It's tricky. It's not just one solution, right? It's many things, which is why I love that as a military community, we are getting so much better at saying, that person is doing a really great work here. We're doing really great work here, because it isn't just one thing. It's many, many things that we all need to do together to ensure, one, ultimately the better outcomes for the military community from an employment perspective, from a mental health perspective, from a family perspective. So yeah, it's really about working together. So yeah, very important.
Javi, thank you for taking time out today to share just your story and the great work you've done over the years and now with You With Me. I'm just really stoked and really enjoy the conversation, and just really happy to get the story out there and learn more about what you're doing and what the company's delivering for the public at large. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I always appreciate talking about With You With Me. Not so much about myself, but no, I like it because I think it's very important, like you said, sharing your stories to sort of understand, and that might be that one listener out there that might resonate with what I've said, that might help them through the day. So yeah, it's really important what you're doing. So thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for your service. Thank you to your wife as well for everything that she's doing in support of you as well. And yeah, I'm really honored and grateful that I've had the opportunity to speak with you today.
Thanks, Javi. Appreciate chatting.
Take care.
See you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.